when you're feeling weary and small, when you've got tears in your eyes. Isn't that what we're all looking for? Is that bridge that gets us from that into something different? And I can tell by the tears that I'm observing on some of your faces that there have been times when you've been looking for that bridge, and there also have been times when you have been that bridge for others. Yes, I know that's the truth. So this whole idea of finding a way through the problems of our experiences, the challenges that come up in day-to-day life, we've all got them. Isn't that the truth? It's just part of the human condition. We're working with this idea of finding wisdom, the way of the wise within all of that. This idea that we can gain clarity, we can gain wisdom, we can see beyond the confusion and understand the truth of what's really going on in our experiences and see a new picture, find a new perception. Like David Hawkins says, it's all based on our consciousness, what we bring to it. We have choices about how we see things in our life. This morning as I was preparing for today, I was reading over my notes for my talk, and those of you who have been here a while know that the living situation that we have in our family is unique. Although I discovered it's not all that unique, because in this economy, they now have a word for what goes on in my own household. It's called doubling up. And what that means is that the economy is very difficult, and people are coming together to co-create living space so that there's safety in numbers, so to speak, and everybody has their needs met. And so in my family, we have like a compound. My son lives in part of our home, and my daughter and her family, including a 6-year-old, live in part of the house, and then we have a part of the house. It's really awesome. But this morning as I was working with my notes, I overheard a conversation in my kitchen between my 6-year-old granddaughter and her daddy. They have a sort of a ritual on Sunday mornings. They go in and make breakfast, and so usually it's pokey eggs, which are fried eggs that you dip the toast into. And this morning I heard the daddy say, I broke the yolk. And I hear the little 6-year-old say, oh, it's okay, Daddy, it's only a yolk. And then a little bit later, I hear Grandpa go in to get his coffee in the kitchen, and I hear Jamie say, look, Grandpa, I'm making scrambled eggs. This is the way of the wise. This is the way that we can perceive our experience. The troubles, it wasn't going to be a pokey egg this morning because it broke, so it had to turn into something else. A new perception, seeing the beautiful within whatever the experience is, the challenge. It's a 6-year-old wisdom, right? And it's an egg, and it doesn't seem like a big deal, but I can tell you, I've encountered children in my lifetime that would have been having a tantrum on the floor, kicking and screaming because the yolk broke in the egg, and that was the expectation. So I think that, in our day-to-day walk in the world, we have these things go on, and we get to choose how we perceive it. And really, the problems that we experience in our life, I've been working with this material. These are the resource books for this month. The Seeker's Guide by Elizabeth Lesser. And then this is an older book by Wayne Dyer, but it's very pertinent. It's called The Wisdom of the Ages. Been working with both of those resources. And in The Seeker's Guide, Elizabeth Lesser tells us that our problems really are messengers. They send messages to us, and they become great teachers. Have you noticed that in your own life experience? The things that have become problematic, somehow when it's all over with and you can take a bigger viewpoint of what it's been about, you get the message, and it's giving you something. It's giving you some wisdom, it's giving you some strength, it's giving you a new way to see the world. And that's generally the way we can work with our problems if we're really clear. Every single problem that we have has a story to tell. Every problem has its own story to tell, and every problem has its own wisdom to reveal to us. Sometimes it's little bitty, and sometimes it's huge. But it's there. And she says, problems are nothing to be ashamed of. Anybody got a problem presenting? that you don't want to share with others? Things that you want to keep secret, that you're afraid of, that you want to run from? I think we've all got those things in our lives where we do, I was talking to someone this morning and the person said, I'm ashamed to admit something. And I said, well, it's the way it is. We have these family secrets, we have these skeletons in the closet, we have these things that we're afraid if we reveal them that people will think less of us. I certainly have had my share of those things in life. And as long as we're seeing our problems as something to hide, guess what? We're not going to be reaching out for help. We're not going to be looking for the beautiful, the grace within the problem. And I love what Elizabeth Lesser says, and this really speaks to most of the significant problems that we encounter in our life journey. We don't really know how we get ourselves into most of the things that happen to us. And I'm talking about things like difficult diagnoses, shattered relationships, aging. We've got birthdays coming up. It just happens. It's a process. We just get into these things, and we don't usually know how to get out of them either. We're not real sure. We think, how can we fix this? And so we do cosmetic surgery, and we do this, and we do that, and we try to go through life fixing everything, right? Well, at a certain point, no matter what, even the smartest person can't figure out how to handle some of life's most difficult, significant problems. There's nothing in the world that could have made my former husband want to continue to be married to me. I couldn't fix that. That was a problem that was beyond my fixing. You hear me? Nothing in the world can fix certain kinds of things that go on. And we are given the great grace of being able to shift the way we see it, to find a gift within that, to find the message, to find the wisdom, to blossom within whatever that experience is. I am deeply grateful now for that divorce. I was not very happy at the time. I saw it as a huge problem, and I didn't see any beauty in it at all. Today I see it in a new way. The wisdom, it taught me a great deal, and I know there are many of you who have shared that journey with me. And I watch Project Runway. It's one of the few television programs that I watch. and this doesn't always work. Tim Gunn, when he comes into the workroom and all of the, what do you call them, the designers are trying to figure out how to make their outfit, work. He doesn't care. He just goes, make it work. Make it work. Well, you know what? We can't always make it work. We can't always fix it, but we can change our perception around whatever that thing is and find the beauty within it as it is, the reality of what it is, not wanting to make it different. So we have to trust that there's something greater going on. There was something way greater going on in my experience of my divorce from my first husband than I knew about. I wouldn't be standing on this platform today. I would probably still be an alcoholic. I would probably be sitting on some yacht in the Caribbean with a private chef. I'd be traveling all over the world, and I'd be miserably unhappy. And I wouldn't be who I am today if I wouldn't have had that experience. Through grace, I had that experience, and my whole life shifted. It was real rough for a while, very rough in the interim. But today I see the grace in that. And if I would have had the wisdom to trust that something greater was going on at that time in my life, I wouldn't have been in such pain. I wouldn't have been suffering so darn much during the interim, you see. If I could have found the strength to align my awareness with the mind of God, who had a perfect plan for my soul's journey, it would have been so much easier, but I didn't know it then. The wisdom wasn't there then. It wasn't there. So usually when we're walking in the world, in our human, experience, the big things, the outer things get our attention. They grab our attention. And I was thinking about this talk. Oh boy, were there a lot of things that I could be talking about. So many things get our attention that seem to be big problems, the biggies. If they're not my own, they're my family's. If they're not my own or my family's, they're yours or the world's. They're somebody's big problems. But Wayne Dyer tells us that if we start identifying with all the problems in the world, with all the problems in our life experience, and we have an inclination to believe so strongly in the problems, that we become a spectator of our lives and become paralyzed by whatever those problems are. You know, when we look at the economy, we've had people come through here who have done great healing work, but when they come to us, they've been so believing in the problem of the economy that they were collapsed and paralyzed until they could see a new way of being with that experience. That's what happens. We identify ourselves with the problem and we think that's who we are, whatever it is. You know, the unemployed one, the one that's out of shape, the one that's the victim, the abandoned one, the abused one, the divorced one, the alcoholic one, whatever it is, we start identifying with that and we think that's who we are, the one who, and we become paralyzed by that. We become paralyzed by that. I love this. Joan Borysenko, she has a wonderful book called It's Not the End of the World. It's addressing all of the current day situations. And in that book, she has a quote by Richard Bach, you know, the guy that wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And I think this speaks to what we're talking about here. What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. See, it's all of it. And we get to choose how we see it, what we call it. And sometimes it is the pressure of whatever the extreme situation in our life is that actually reveals the essence of who we really are, that it reveals the blessing of the experience. It's that actually is the revelation. We find our empowerment when we have the courage to face it, to actually look at it, to actually face everything and avoid nothing. It's part of the work of Andrew Cohen. It's this idea that if we have the courage to look at it, not to run from it, not to hide it, not to turn our back on it, face it, not avoid it, something new will happen. Because he says, when we open our eyes and look around with an open mind and a curious heart, a new world of possibilities reveals itself. Now I can tell you that I did this practice for a whole year, several years ago. This face everything, avoid nothing, and it was one of the hardest years of my life. It is the year that I made a decision that I couldn't be at my former spiritual community anymore. Face everything, avoid nothing. Take a look at it. Open up. See new possibilities. And when we do that, it deepens our awareness. It strengthens us. And the ones who thrive, the ones who have vision, have the resilience and the willingness to actually take a look at it, to find a sense of hope within the experience, whatever that is, beyond other people's perceptions. You know, a lot of us these days are collapsed into what we're hearing, reading, and seeing in the media. We've got to move into hope beyond all that hype out there that we see in the media that tells us about the problems that are plaguing our economy, our country, our world. We've got to be able to find a hopefulness within that. I was thinking, we had a person renting space from us for quite a while actually, and all of a sudden one day he says, I'm leaving. I'm going to be moving to Texas with my family. And we said, really? He said, yes, I've got to be gone by September 26th. We said, really? Well, he had been listening to a disaster prediction that said, I don't know what, California was going to disappear, fall in the ocean. Something was horrible was going to happen on September 26th. And he needed to take his family to Texas because he didn't want to be here for that disaster. We get so caught up, and he did, he left. We get so caught up in these things, these fearful things, we get collapsed and paralyzed by this stuff. And this idea that we can be hopeful within all of that, we can be stress hardy and find the beauty and the grace and the answer, the wisdom within these problems, whatever they are, is huge. You know, it takes a lot of pressure to make a diamond. A lot of pressure. It takes a lot of irritation inside of an oyster to make a pearl. It takes a lot of stuff in our human walk in the world to help us rub the roughness off of our elbows so that we can be who we really are, so that we can step into the grace and the beauty of who we really are. And when we're afraid, it poisons our experience. When we are resisting, it poisons our experience. And all of our creative ideas that could help move us through it get squashed. That's what happens. I love what Elizabeth Lesser says in The Seeker's Journey. She says, when we're in a survival mode, anybody in a survival mode, right now just trying to make it through whatever's going on in your life experience, a transition, a disappointment, whatever's going on. I see my friend Jan nodding. She's got 32 children in a first grade classroom, and it's very, very difficult this year. And what I know about Jan is she's capable of moving into creative problem solving and moving through it. Because if we stay in fear and if we shrink back into it and we think we're just going to survive this no matter what happens is we limit ourselves, we shrink, we close off the possibilities. Actually, today when we come together for our 7th anniversary discussion about how we can raise funds for our community around that event, it's not out of fear, it's out of creative thinking, it's out of possibility thinking that this is going to birth itself. I was thinking about my son who just came back from Thailand, thank you God, and he's well, and he decided not to stay there, and I'm grateful. But I was thinking he went to see a friend that he got sober with 25 years ago, and I remember his friend Mike telling me what an inspiration David was to him all these years ago. They had only been sober a couple of years, and they took a trip to Lake Powell on a houseboat, and they experienced this horrendous weather, this incredibly difficult, windy, horrible weather, and everyone was fearful. Well, David, who was a very young, sober person at that point in time, was out on the deck flying a kite. And his friend Mike, the one he went to see in Thailand, his friend Mike said that gave him a new perspective, a new way to be, not just with the wind in this experience, but life. This idea, well, got a lot of wind, let's go fly a kite. Let's go fly a kite. This is how we can be with our experiences. Cultivate the art of receiving and integrating whatever it is that comes our way. Whatever it is. Keep your heart open until your mind can wrap itself around the way of the wise, like Janie did with her broken egg yolk this morning. Keep open. And you know what? I love this statement. We can become who we really are. We can become through our experiences. Not because of them or despite them, but we can become who we really are through our experience of life, which includes all of it. The beautiful, the wonderful, the joyous, and the problematic. See? So this is your invitation this week and this month. Look at the problems in your life. What stories do the problems tell you? What are the problems in your life telling you? What are the stories that they're telling you? And then what wisdom could those problems be revealing? What can you open to within that? Things that you can only see as very difficult. What is the story and what is the wisdom? Are you able to perceive, if you can actually face it with courage, are you able to perceive the beautiful possibilities within whatever that experience is? Whatever is going on? Can you perceive something beautiful in that? Now I can tell you it takes work. I didn't perceive myself loving my life at age 65 when I was in my 30s and divorcing from my husband. I didn't perceive that then. But can you perceive the beautiful? Can you open to that? What are the inner blessings that you can find, like the pearl in the oyster, like the diamond in the coal? What are the inner blessings that may be revealing themselves through the extreme circumstances of your life right now? What's there for you? How can you revisit an old problem and take a new look at it and see what that gave you along the way? And then where are you being called to trust the greater intelligence of the universe? Where are you being called to align yourself with the mind of God? Where are you being called to actually see and be that bridge over troubled water so that you can actually access the grace and the beauty that's within everything?